How are you doing? Jacky Poon, Mr. Poon, Poon Star.
I'm good. How are you, Jack Perks?
I'm good, mate. God, it's been so long
Been a
since we've had
while.
a good chat,
I
innit?
know. I know,
Oh,
indeed. How's
and
it all
you?
going?
Yeah, not too bad. It's really snowy actually today. It's pissed it down with snow.
Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. I was watching it on the news. It's like UK snowing. I was like, oh, it's one of those like people's like, oh, it's snowing, and a few flakes just fall down from the sky. And then my mom sent me a picture, and I was like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, like properly covered in snow, huh?
yeah, because your mum's still in West Bridgeford. She's still over here, isn't
Hmm.
she? Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
she'll get loads of snow because you're Yunnan province, aren't you, in China? So
Yes.
how far north are you? Are you fairly? I'm trying to kind of think about it on a
No,
map.
no.
You're further down, are
Um,
you?
Yes, we're a bit further down from you.
So is it quite
I
warm at the minute where you are?
uh, it's strange because where I live is a place called Dali in Yunnan province, and it's
Okay.
2,500 meters above sea level, so it's quite high in altitude.
Ah, okay.
So it has this really big different variation in weather. It's got its own micro climate, and now it's usually quite sunny in the winter, super windy, but it's quite
Right.
warm in the day when the sun hits you. You can almost go short sleeve. In fact, in the winter,
Ah,
but as soon as it go at night, it's like frosty and cold and stuff. So,
yeah.
but
I've
yeah,
just
it's a pretty, it's a good place to sort of be, I guess, in the winter because it doesn't rain very much. Because Yunnan is like Yunnan province looks like it's very long and tall, and where we are is in the middle. So if you go further up north, it will be the Tibetan Plateau, and it's still
ah
in the Yunnan province. So that's about, I don't know, about 6 hours drive from me. Or you go down south in Yunnan province, you get to the tropics where the elephants are, and then you can harvest bananas and
I
stuff.
always
Yeah,
forget that
so
there's still
that's
elephants in China. There's a few hanging on, isn't there?
yes.
Yeah.
There's quite a few. I mean, I
Is there?
film them
Okay.
every other year,
Okay.
and there's a park, elephant parks that the elephant visit over winter for the mineral in the lakes and stuff. So they would come over, and
Ah,
because they build a platform, so you're like higher than them, you're much taller than them. So it's deemed pretty safe, really, for the for the actually over Chinese New Year in the winter, families and stuff would go and see them, and it's very good exposure for the wildlife here.
yeah. Oh, cool. I just realised that's a very British way to start the podcast is ask about the weather. But
Yeah.
so what I normally do is I start by asking people where they started in wildlife filmmaking, but I should already know most of it because we've been, Jesus Christ, how long have we known each other? Too long,
So
really.
long. Yeah,
Um,
we met like what, back in college. That's crazy.
2000,
Yeah, college.
2007, that was, I think.
Wow. Okay, you
Um,
done your homework. I haven't.
yeah, so
Yeah, that's good
that's
then.
why I'm so aged and haggard now. All the years I've known,
Mate,
I know. Do you know what my first impression was of you? Like the first time I met you. I don't know if you remember this,
I
but
don't want to know.
we we were at college, and I think I was
Uh-huh.
16, and you're about 3 years older than me, aren't you? Is it 3 years?
Uh, I went to college when I was 18. So yeah,
18.
3 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds
so
about right.
about that. And I remember coming in, and I could hear someone talking behind a corner, and I thought, that's a really weird chav. That's a really weird sounding chav. I couldn't work out because I grew up in a council estate, so I knew what chavs talk like. But I thought this chav's not right. There's something not going on. And I came around the corner, and it was you and a couple others, and obviously you were kind of decked out in chav gear or semi chav gear, and I was like, oh, that was not what I was expecting. But
Oh man, I still can remember the good old days actually.
yeah, we can't talk about a lot of
I
it,
was trying
but
to blend into where our college were, in Clifton and all. I was like,
yeah.
right, I have to wear the right clothes going to Clifton. So what should I wear? So I just dug out the chav gear, put it on, and I'm glad that you thought, yeah, there's a chav going on. It doesn't
yeah,
sound quite right, but when you see me, you're like,
yeah,
that's not the chav you're expecting. But yeah, well, I
exactly.
mean, it's funny because I didn't know your name until when we actually talked, and the whole time for like I think for like at least a week, I thought your name is Captain because Sue, our tutor, a great Sue, and she just decided to call you Captain
Yeah,
on the register in the very first day, and I was like, that's just a really weird name, this dude. But anyway, nevertheless, Captain. I mean, who am I to judge people's name being the Poon? you know.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, Captain, right, great. And yeah, it's not until much later, and I was like, yeah, his name's actually Jack, you know. And yeah, that was actually quite strange, but yeah, that went quickly, I tell you. I mean, 2007, and now with, like, you know, in way into the 2021 now. So
So
yeah, we
what?
all progressed a lot.
A little bit, yeah. So when was it that you decided wildlife? Because I remember you having a slight interest in wildlife at college. Was it before then, or was it when you were at college you were just sort of like, I want
Oh,
to do wildlife, or has it always been that you wanted to work with wildlife?
I mean, I want to tell you, like everyone else, that every I mean, I haven't really heard any other variation besides, oh, I really love David Attenborough, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I've
yeah.
watched it all the time, and I was it's been my dream since, you know, whenever I knew when I was young that I wanted to be a cameraman or on production or whatever. But that's never my thing. I mean, you probably know. I mean, I didn't even look like a wildlife person back then, right?
You
So
don't
it
now,
was.
really. I mean, it's still hard to believe,
Hey,
to
I
be
still
honest.
camo.
Oh yeah,
Every
that's
at
true. You've
least
got
some pieces of me would be
okay,
camo. It doesn't matter where I go, even going to, you know, important meeting and stuff. But then
okay.
again, I mean, that's to probably look more professional in our field, wearing camo. But yeah, back then it was you know, I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do photography, and that's why I jumped onto the course. But it's a very last minute thing. I sort of just, you know, wanted knowing what I want to do after the summer of being away. Then I was like, right, let's do this. You know, looked into it. Our college was closer to my home, and I'm not really given think of it very much at all. And anyway, then after the 2 years, when Sue was asking and Steve were asking, oh, you know, which uni you want to go to and stuff, I was like, I don't want to go uni. Like, what are you talking about? Do I look like a uni person to you? But you know, the more they talk about it, and you know, sort of and I honestly have no idea. And everyone, including Sue and Steve, they were like, you know, you should do product photography, because I thought I was pretty good at it. And
Is
also
that
with
right? They wanted you to do that.
well, I mean, that's actually, I mean, let's be honest. Like, doing what we do, there are things that we can make money from. There are things that we can't really make money from, and
Yeah.
I'm sure back in the days, wildlife is one of those that we can't make money from. So you know, and they see that I can do product photography quite well, and also do with Photoshop and all that followings. So they were like, oh, you know, you should do this. And but then I then thought, you know, if I'm going to consider university, I should at least do something that I'm good at, but not only that, but something that I like.
Yeah.
I know I like
Yeah. Yeah.
photography. And then so I went back to all the coursework in the 2 years, and I looked at it, and every single one, if it's not a specific subject that they asked us to do, it's all to do with nature. So I was like,
Yeah.
right, that nails the lid on a coffin then. So so that's how, you know, we sort of, well, that's how I decided to do it. But it's not until, you know, sort of a couple of years down the line, when, you know, when our university had this massive change, that I kind of thought, you know, I gotta have to make something out of this. You know, it can't just be. I mean, as much as I love photography, I want to, you know, sort of make a living out of it. So it's not like, you know, the fancy story of
No, I
everyone loved
know.
to do it from the very beginning. You know, it's more like I just progress. But you know, even now, the thrilling of filmmaking. You know, I haven't done photography in a long time. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's always been filming for production, filming for myself, or, you know, if I go out and do some stuff, I'll just be filming. You know, photography tend to sort of drift off from me, and I kind of enjoy the sort of both creative and putting a film together, you know, filming sequences, and, you know, also the technical specification of it, you know, being able to do everything manually,
Yeah.
and being successful in capturing the shot. So yeah, I guess I moved on and not moved on, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm still
Yeah.
in the wildlife, still doing media, but then I really sort of pursued a path
It,
of filmmaking.
it's an easy, well, I say easy transition, but it's a logical transition, I guess, because I think a lot of people thought they could make a living solely from stills, and me, Josh,
Yeah.
Sam, a few people, and it's not impossible, but it's incredibly difficult to make a full-time living from wildlife photography. But wildlife filmmaking, there's a lot more options and a lot more things that you
Yeah.
can do. So I think that makes sense. Would you say that
Mhm.
what was your big break? I mean, I would probably say, would it be the Cloud Forest
Oh,
film?
no.
No, you wouldn't
My
say
big
that?
break. I mean, I don't think we have ever even talked about this, huh? With
Maybe
my
we
big
haven't.
break. Oh,
Enlighten me. What was your big
yeah.
break?
So it's a long story, but I'm going to shorten it, because
Did
it
some
1 hour
you
is not
did
enough.
you did some things you weren't proud of with a few producers.
Oh, I mean that's standard. Do you know what I mean? We in immediately come on.
Jackie's
No.
top tip: give producers blowjobs,
Yeah, yeah.
and they'll
Make
let
way
you
for
in.
them and the following. No.
Okay, go on then.
Well, yeah. I mean, my big break was okay. Cloud Forest project is something to set up the break.
Okay.
The reason of it isn't because of where the film went, even though it's well received and it got a few places, but that wasn't the reason. The reason was actually first year. I can't remember if you were on the trip with us, but I remember having
Sorry, Jacky.
James
My
Porter.
my wife's knocked on the door. I think she's got me a bacon sandwich, which
Wait.
takes precedence over your interview. You can come in, darling.
There we go.
I'm just onto Jacky. Say hello, Anne.
On to Jacky. Yeah, how are you?
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Sam. Sorry.
Cheers.
Sorry, Jacky. A bacon sandwich was more important. Carry on.
I was
I am
about
listening.
to put something in your mouth and just make sure it shuts for the next 5 minutes while I'm talking. So
don't
now
flirt
you
with
have
me.
the bacon.
Don't flirt with me.
Oh no. Now have the bacon sandwich in your mouth. Okay, so long story short, did the project, but then before that, I can't remember if you were on a trip with us, but me and James Porter and I think it's Josh Jaggard. We overheard that there's a filmmaking masterclass with Mark Fletcher, and that's in the middle of summer. So we decided to get together and drive back and go and do this course with him. And that was like a weekend course, but it meant to be for, I think it's zoology student or biology student. I can't remember. It wasn't for us. God knows why it wasn't for us, but but I was like, okay, let's go and do it. So we went and did it. And after the course, I kept in touch with Mark. And so after the Cloud Forest project, I sent the film to Mark. I mean, bless him, because it was an hour of student film. I mean, watching 20 minutes of student film, that's a lot already. But he actually spent an hour watching it. I know, it's crazy. So he spent an hour watching it and gave me feedbacks. And since then, we have been keeping in touch. And the real, I mean, the first break was that we got together. I moved to China, and then I started doing work here, and then I made the film called Missionary Monkey of Shangri-La. But when we were first starting, we just knew, just to film the monkeys. There wasn't a defined story. I didn't really know what I'm doing, let's be honest. We kind of just, fresh out of college, basically. And then I pinged him an email because I'm really trying to find a way to get this film out there and at least get some instruction and craft even a blurry path. Something that we can sort of grabs hold of instead of going into the mountain and keep filming these monkeys for seriously no reason, but just shot,
Yeah.
So I pinged him an email, and I remember this really clearly, right? So whoever's listening to this, do your research. I mean, I don't think anyone was going to do less research than me on Mark, because after knowing him for 3 years, I still didn't know he's a well-known editor, producer. And I sent an email to Mark saying, "How are you doing, Mark? Do you know any good editor?" So I sent him that email, and Mark was like, "Oh, right, he just wrote me back. It's like, oh, it depends, what you got. I can see, if you show me some stuff, and I can, I can maybe help you out with this and try to find you a decent editor." I was like, great. So I put a short, like 5-minute show reel. There's no story in it, no nothing, and just pretty shots. Send it to him. Got an email back the same day, and it's like, I am an editor. Let's work together. And that was the first TV credit I've got. So we put together the film together in a year time. He never came out onto location, but he's given me guidance, editorial lessons, and understanding of how filmmaking work and all that stuff. So all the basic came from him. And since then, we have also made another film called Panda Bean. I didn't even know my own film's name. Born to be Wild. So it's actually broadcast in a few different countries, so their names is different according to the broadcaster what they want to call it. But Born to be Wild, and then All Panda Goes Wild. And so since then, I mean, it's we have since we make the monkey film. It's been 3 years, and then we make the panda film. It's been 2 years. So I actively want to do some stuff with him because it's more, sort of.
So is it a case then? That's all right. Sorry, I'm just swallowing the last bit of bacon.
You finally finish a bacon sandwich.
Doesn't take me long. So So is it a case, and I've spoken to a few camera ops about this, is it not what you know, but who you know, or is it a combination? Because
It's
obviously
a combination for
knowing
sure.
Mark opened those doors, but then
Yeah.
presumably you still have to have the skills to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, even I think what it is you need that opportunity.
Yeah,
Someone giving you that shot. Mark was certainly one of them, and we put together the film, um, and it received very well, in fact. So I mean, that was the first thing, but then the main thing was that Disney came along to China and wanted to make a film born in China. And I was called a friend of mine. So we made a few friends on the way, and they're all in media, but none of them are in wildlife, and in China. And after the monkey film, I kind of sort of just left in this like gap. I didn't know what to do. In China, there is no such thing as wildlife filmmaking industry. So what should I do next? But before I even start looking, my friend called me and it's like, "Oh, do you want to jump onto this Disney gig?" Now I've heard about it, but so they offered me, they were saying, if you want to jump into the gig, I'll get the producer to call you. And producer called me, and I knew from the very beginning that all they wanted, excuse me, is a fixer. So someone to deal with logistics, deal with money and things like this. So I was like, I considered, and I wasn't going to do it because that wasn't
that's not
what
what
I
you
wanted
wanted to
to do.
do. Yeah,
Yes, and that's the first lesson I've learned. Even it wasn't what you want to do, that's a foot in the industry for sure. I mean, that's far away from what I want to do. I mean, from like dealing with camera and technical and creative to something like dealing with money, and I mean it's completely different. But anyway, also because I'm lacking any job of any kind, so I was like, right, let's give this a go. And I made it pretty clear to them that I'm a camera person, and they were like, yeah, just deal with the money. And I was like, great, But from then on, that was the really big break that I have. And uh, after jumping on it, I had opportunity to have this crazy opportunity where the cameraman and the director of the first shoot that we are going to do, their visa were delayed for a couple of weeks, and the behavior that we're going to film is not going to happen after that. So they were like, oh, they were going to pull the shoot out completely. But then I have a friend that was also in it. You would know Ollie Scully.
I
And
know of him through you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And we did a recce together, and we become pretty good friends together after that. And he recommended me to production, and was just like, oh, Jacky can do this, and come to me. I was like, yeah, I'm up for it. I mean, back then, yeah, I mean, I'm not even ashamed of this, but I know very, very little about filmmaking. And they were like, yeah, very little. I mean, as much as I can, I know a
yeah,
lot more
yeah.
craft skills in the wild because of the last film, because I was in the wild all the time. But in terms of camera techniques and the numbers and how to control it, I wasn't very good at that. So they were asking, oh, can Jacky do this? And my monkey film, wasn't broadcast, so they have nothing to reference on. But then because it's Disney, they have a penny there and here. So they're like, right, why don't you just let Jacky have a try at this? So I decided I was able and capable of taking 30 rangers, 650 kilograms of equipment, and climb up a mountain with all those guys just by myself, dealing with everything, organize everything. There's no water or electricity in the location, set the camp and did everything. And then after that, I was just in and out of the rangers, traveling and trying to film these animals for a couple of weeks until the producer and director and cameraman arrives to take over. And I was filming on tape, so I can't delete anything. So
Right.
they watch everything that I filmed, right? And I can't delete anything. And each tape was 100 quid, and they give me about 15 minutes of shoot time. Yeah,
Wow.
they gave me like 10 tapes, and so I did that. And I guess they weren't. I wouldn't say they're impressed, but they were like, they weren't feeling terrible about the idea of sending me out, and they didn't
Okay.
feel like a waste of money. So by the end of that shoot, we meant to move straight on to another shoot. They said to me, Jacky, do you want to keep hold of the camera and keep filming? And that was where that big break was. And since then,
So
after that,
complete
I've been
chance.
complete
Really?
chance.
If that
Yeah,
plane hadn't been delayed, you'd still be counting money for him. Maybe.
I would probably found ways to. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah. You're
counting
quite
money is
proactive.
one thing. but I also think that they realized my money counting skill was probably the worst Chinese in the world, and I was not very good at, I was just like, yeah, spend the money, just eat what you want, drivers, and drivers like going on like a food
Steak every day.
stuff, so they come back with like, there's not much money left, and I was like, yeah, I've got all the receipts, and they looked at the receipt, they're like, right, let's move him to a different department. So that probably contribute to my sort of, one way or another, very lucky break to move up from that. But I think I would imagine if it give me another 5 years and then I have that break, I wouldn't be as bold. Like, I think now looking back, taking all those people, all those equipment, organizing everything, and being the camera person as well, and did it all by myself, that was quite crazy. Like, a lot of things can go wrong. And now thinking about it, thinking back, I wouldn't have taken the risk if I put myself in the same shoe, because there's just so much things that can go wrong. And we know this industry well enough to understand that if we put our foot into the wrong pond, we could well be drowned. So, in a way, I guess I was lucky because I was young and I was bold.
Yeah. And you mentioned that the filmmaking industry was more or less non-existent in China then. So what's it like now? Because I guess it's still relatively new. Like, is it kind of growing? Is it still fairly small? Because I remember at one point you said, I think it was more wildlife photography, but there was like 3 wildlife photographers in the whole of China, which is fucking bonkers.
But I know. I mean, photography have grown since massively. The thing that actually changed the whole industry, since there was an industry, so you can't really call it change, that created the whole industry was born in China, surprisingly. So in 2016, when the film came out, it went from, once a week, like 1 showing a week or 2 showing a week on Wednesday daytime. Like, literally there's no screening whatsoever, and then just blew up in social media, and went from that to every day, every evening, and kids were watching it, and we have received really good reviews. And that's when, so I guess people realized the importance of it, spending time with the kids, also watching the film as well, and it really influenced and moved the industry as a whole, natural history industry, not just filmmaking, not just photography, but also education. The education now with on natural history, there's a massive step forward, and beside that also protections, and Chinese government now are much more willing to spend money in protecting environment, protecting animals than before, like, for sure. I don't really know if that's one of the reason, one of the influences from Born in China, but everything else I've seen is definitely a huge step up. So that from that the industry was created, but slowly photography was getting popular because there's more camera available and there's a lot of animals to film in China, so a lot of people go into photography. The filming industry until now, a lot of production come in here with a director, without director, and sometimes I just do sort of remote shoots for them. It's been a huge a huge increase in number of production that are looking to film in China. Before there was always like a screen that people kind of don't really want to come in China because of the permits, and everything is just more complicated. But I guess it's easier now, and at the same time you're running out of shit to film. So so people was like, right, let's do China, let's see what we can do. And I was lucky enough to be right in the middle of of it when it's sort of going up, and I'm growing up with the whole industry here.
And you've done you've done a lot of iconic Chinese species, but you've done pandas for a few different shoots. Am I right in remembering you dressed up in a panda onesie to film them, or did you make that up?
No. So yeah, I was the whole team have to dress up in a panda onesie to film them.
Right.
It's one of the weird and wonderful rules that we have here. I guess it's because back in the days, for a very long time they have done it, and they sort of kind of feel like keep doing it is is something that what is the real reason behind it? Would it really affect a panda less because you're dressing onesie? However, we always put on like panda poo and pee and make sure that we don't smell like people, and we're certainly trying to make the appearance less likely. So there's a lot. It wasn't just for fun. I mean, even though sometimes I feel
I didn't
like
think you were
dressing it
doing
just for fun, but still.
Yeah, no, I get
Yeah,
that.
I mean that was very unique, but you know, is not. I feel like, you know, having less disturbance and impact on the panda, the better.
Yeah,
So you know,
yeah,
they are, and you know, the scientists that are working behind the program, they are like awesome people. Honestly, I have interviewed them many times, and they told me stories about what they've been through. You know, and they have so much understanding in the species that I feel like these rules, even though sometimes, you know, is weird and wonderful, it has to make sense some way and the other. And plus, you know, I'm privileged enough to be able to spend time with these animals. So, you know, these small rules really means nothing but to, you know, to do it and to make sure that everyone's happy.
yeah. I know. I mean, there's a lot in conservation talking about pandas and the fact that they're kind of at almost an evolutionary dead end. So, I mean, are pandas fucked? Are they worth the effort? You know, because there's so much that goes into them. But I don't know. I wonder what your opinion on it was.
Okay, so I mean, this is something that I've been battling with for
Yeah.
the past, you know, 5 years. Um, where do I start? So my opinion is that panda is a very misunderstood species, especially in the West, where
Okay.
very well-known conservationists have made bold claims that does not match reality. And that's why everyone in the West thinks that panda is an evolutionary dead end. I mean, what makes it evolutionary dead end? I mean,
I,
that's my question. Does it mean that they don't?
from what I understand, isn't it that they are a carnivore, but they're eating bamboo and their bodies
Mhm.
struggle with that? Is that right or not?
No. So the
Okay.
reason they're eating bamboo is because it's abundant. So it's a
Right.
way for them to survive much better. And also their color blend into the bamboo forest very well because of the bamboo forest creates a lot of shadows when it's harsh sun. So then
Ah,
their black and white really blend into it. So if a panda standing in front of you 5 meters away in the dense bamboo forest, you will not see it. So that was one of the reasons why they were starting to. I mean, they're still opportunistic animals. They will still go for meat if there's an opportunity. They're certainly not going to go and trying to get the meat. But if there's a dead, you know, if there's a carcass of
they'll
a
scavenge.
takin or yeah, they will
Yeah.
scavenge. They
Yeah.
will definitely go for that. And that's one reason. But the other is that our misunderstanding is heavily towards the fact that they don't breed, right?
Right.
So revolutionary their end because they don't breed, and you know they're just being cute and cuddly, you know, and almost politicized. But the true fact is that they do breed. They don't breed in captivity. I mean, that's one of the reason why people and certain conservationists, very well-known conservation, saying that they should just you know that we shouldn't really help them and the efforts is meaning nothing. They should put it more into other species. But in fact, I spent the last 3 years working with pandas in the wild. So we went to this really hostile place. The terrain is extremely difficult, but I want to sort of make this film and prove to the world that pandas actually mate. So every between February and March, there's like a we you know we call it like the sort of the panda dance. So there's a in the mountain there'll be pandas fighting for their mating rights, literally
Ah, cool.
kicking the shit out of each other and trying to mate with a female. I mean, it's really insane when you're there because the terrain's very difficult. It's bamboo everywhere. You have to just go through this bamboo. But to the point where the way we track pandas was from sound. So you hear them from miles away in the middle of mountain, and they will be shouting and screaming and fighting.
What's a panda sound like?
They sound like dogs, in fact, and
Oh,
sheep call.
oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like the very first time when I got to the mountain, I heard the sound. I was like, "This dog's here." And they're like, "No, no, no, that's panda call." You know, so we spent 3 years to trying to, you know, create a story and, you know, to tell the world the truth about pandas in the facts that our understanding of them is very little, to the fact that one of the reasons why in the very beginning the breeding program is not very successful is because you we couldn't keep the baby alive for more than a day or two, and we didn't know why. Like why after the panda mum gave birth, we couldn't keep them alive. It's not until much later, 20 years later, that we realized that the baby need to be stimulated every 5 hours for it to pee and poo, and if they're not stimulated, they will just die.
Right.
right? So there's so many science behind it where we still don't understand.
Yeah.
And for some conservationists to come out and say to the world that they are not a species who need to be protected and they need to, you know, so just die off.
Yeah.
And that's just very irresponsible, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
not only because not only for that as well. If you think about the panda being one of the species that's most protected in China, what does that mean? That means it protects the whole area of bamboo forest and the millions of species in there.
Yeah.
You know, the bamboo forests I worked in, they are pristine, you know, they have not been touched, you know, and that alone is already gold.
Yeah, keystone species, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, you know, I think I hope that one day we can sort of clear that out, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, to a point, I think, you know, as the world leading conservationist, as a country of the world leading conservationists, we are often very ignorant about what we want to hear and what we heard.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes we just block out stuff that we think we know the best, but in fact, I tell you what, from pandas, it's not like that.
Yeah.
You know, spending time in the field with captive pandas, you know, with wild pandas, you know, and all the times of knowing these amazing scientists doing their works in the back and seriously understanding the species for what they are and who they are and the hardship that they go through in order to mate. I mean, it's difficult, but that's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of animals are having really tough time to breed. And this is one of the animals, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really interesting to hear. I mean, I didn't know a lot of that, so I've definitely learned something from that. The other animal that you've worked a lot with is snub-nosed monkeys, isn't it? So are they a favourite for you to work with? Do you like working with snub-nosed monkeys?
I think primate is my favorite. Yeah,
Is it?
I'm almost known as a bit of a monkey man in China.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Maybe because I film a lot of monkeys, maybe because I look a bit like a monkey. But you know, I mean that everyone can make a call on that. But I think, you know, for me, the primate is something quite special for me because the expression and a lot of the times, I mean, filming is one thing, but you know, when the days aren't so good, when the lights aren't so good, I spend a lot of time just watching them. I don't have to film them all the time, but watching them when the light's not so good, you get to learn individuals and their behavior and their uniqueness of what they do in order to, you know, in order to socialize or survive. You know, for example, when we film, you know, the monkey sort of doing backflips for Born in China, we knew which one liked to do backflip the most.
So they've got a personality almost then.
Yes, mate. I mean,
Yeah.
I think all individual have their personality, even though some of them are not very obvious. You know, a lot of the animals that we see aren't very obvious, the one that we film, but then a lot of animals that we understand the most or the most like us, for example, monkeys or dogs and cats, you can see that personality straight away. You know, and for monkeys, I think that's what amazes me, that for the until now, 6 years running, every other season I'll be here filming golden sun-nosed monkeys, and I've never got bored of it, and they have always shown me new stuff to film, and that, you know, I just loved it. I don't know when I'll ever get bored of it, but yeah, it's my thing.
So chances are, if you see snub-nosed monkeys on a blue chip series, it's probably you that's filmed it or you've had a hand in it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's probably fair to say, at
Yeah,
least for the UK audience anyway.
yeah.
Because
So
I think
Perfect
UK
Planet.
audience, like,
You just done
yeah,
Perfect Planet, haven't you?
well.
Yeah, I saw that. It was all right. You did okay.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate your your words.
Yeah, good.
But you know, I mean, that's the thing. Like we've been filming Golden Sun-nosed Monkeys way before Seven Worlds and Perfect Planet, but it's mainly exposed to the US audience. You know, National Geographic loved it, Discovery loved it, but I guess for the BBC, it's not. They didn't really go big until, you know, until Seven Worlds, really, where they were heavily starred in the whole show. And before that, you know, I've done other species of snub-nosed monkeys, these black snub-nosed monkeys that, you know, 5 hours away from me, which in China just means outside your house, that distance. And they, you know, they were featured in the BBC Mountains and also Earth from Space. But because they're not super big blue chip, people don't really see them that, you know, they don't get as much exposure as something like Seven Worlds and Landmarks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I'm the one that probably filmed them the most.
Yeah. Weren't they grooming you? Did you say they were grooming you at one point?
Yeah, I mean they're super friendly and they're habituated for a long time. You know, the rangers spend a lot of times with them and through their hard work, the monkeys not are not very afraid of people. And you know, sometimes because I really, if you imagine a time where you know you film and then a lot of people would have a rest and stuff, but I usually just film and then I'll sit there and watch them. And the babies are very curious and sometimes they'll just jump on top of me, you know, and just like check me and see what I'm like, and you know it's an experience, you know, and
I
they're
bet.
super gentle. They're not like you know other species, for example, macaques, that they can be very aggressive and they just want food out of your pocket. But these guys just want to check you out, you know, have a look at what you like, and you know, jump on your equipment, and yeah, it's an amazing experience.
I bet. I bet. So you've worked extensively in China, but is there anywhere else or any species that you've not worked on that you'd like to work on?
Well, I mean, where the list starts.
Everything.
I have, to be honest, the plan for me was to, you know, film more outside China from last year. In fact, I have got a lot of production that asked me to film. You know, I've actually done a shoot in Morocco for Quibi. This is for the BBC Productions as well. And since then, you know, I was offered to go to Namibia and various different places in Nepal. But because of the pandemic, those are all cancelled. And now China is the place that, in a way, is the safest, and we can still travel, and we're still able to film, you know, with minimum restrictions. So you know, so I consider myself as like really blessed. Again, you
Yeah.
know, that I was able to still make a living and you know still be able to film and do what I love in this sort of you know extraordinary times.
I mean, pandemic aside, does it get frustrating then to get pigeonholed with China? Because I guess everyone thinks, right, we want to do a film in China, Jacky Poon, or do you not mind that? Are you quite happy to,
Uh, well, I mean, for the people that have ever worked with me, and for the people that sort of spoken to me, and you know, we were sort of involved together on the shoe and whatnot. Most people know that I want to sort of branch out, and you know, and everyone's been super nice. They've been trying to give me opportunities. You know, they've been talking to me about opportunities outside China, and then again, you know, because of the pandemic, that will have to put to a halt. But yes, I did. There's one point in my life, a couple of years ago, where I feel like you know I'm really pigeonholed in China. Um, but then again, you know, I honestly I still feel that I'm really blessed with it. You know, and every time when I go on a shoot, that feeling goes away. Like because
yeah,
you know you're spending time with the animal, you're able to film it, and I get better and better every year. You know, you look at things differently every year. You can feel that you're grown every year. And when you're looking back at your stuff, you just think, oh, what's that rubbish? You know, the stuff you filmed a couple of years ago. In fact, you know, things like Perfect Planet, you know, that was filmed years ago, you know. So and looking at myself now, you know, knowing myself that have grown and learnt from, you know, from being on location and working with different productions and amazing producers and directors, you know, that I guess, you know, feeling feeling cocooned is one thing, but that's nothing as important as being able to actually do what you love. And not to mention, you know, it's hard time for everyone right now. And but for someone like me, myself, as a local cameraman, you know, and people are able to set up remote shoots, you know, I think all of us as you know as local cameramen, we're very lucky to be able to
yeah.
have this opportunity. I'm especially lucky because I mean China's huge, you
Yeah, I've
know,
heard
and
that. I've heard it's big.
yeah, compared to the UK, it's a much bigger island.
Yeah,
And you know, I mean, they don't really, in a way, a lot of people trust me because of again, you know, connection and knowing other producers, especially when you set in a remote shoot, you have to really trust that person. And you know, and I've been fortunate enough to have that trust from various productions in the UK, and they really, you know, set it up for me. And I hope I haven't disappointed them. There are more films that's coming out that I've involved in. But yeah, I mean, I guess going out of China is one thing that would eventually happen. You know, I kind of feel that I'm able to take on that task. Maybe not better than everyone else, but as good as everyone else at least. Um, but right now, you know, being in China is safe and you know is efficient to the point where like this year I can't even take up any more work this year. This year is completely booked out.
Yeah.
You know, going ahead or not, I mean, this, I think everyone is in the same shoot. Going ahead on the shoot or not, that's a question to be discussed at the time because of COVID. But then again, you know, just to have this, you know, looking at the schedule and just looking back and how lucky I am.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you in terms of, because I get, you know, you know, I like fish and I get pigeonholed a little
Sure.
bit with the fish stuff. But once
Really?
I'm on the shoot, yeah, a little bit sometimes. But yeah, once you're on the shoot and you're in the water or whether you're in the trees or monkeys or whatever you're doing, you don't give a shit and you're loving it and you're
Yeah,
enjoying it.
yeah,
So I can't grumble about that.
agreed.
Well, before we go, I'm going to ask one more question, which is, have you ever had a big disaster on a shoot? Have you had anything go wrong and you're like, oh shit? And if you have, how did you overcome it? You probably don't want to admit it if you have had something
Oh
go
no,
wrong.
no, I'm very open to, you know, I've spoken to a few young cameramen that they've messaged me, and I just tell, I mean, I have nothing to be ashamed of. If you look on my Facebook, our
Well, you do
uni
have a
life
lot to
is
be
still
ashamed
on
of,
there.
but I'm not going to put that
Yeah,
out on here. But that's nothing to do with
yeah.
filmmaking.
If you expose me, I expose you,
Yeah.
bro.
All right then. Okay, we'll call it.
Oh, there you go.
We'll call it
We
quits
seal the
then.
deal there. But
Oh,
yeah, I you know, I think everything from what you've done right, which we all sort of cling on to and what we're proud of, but we often overlooked of what you've done wrong. You know, and it
yeah.
feels to me that that's the learning curve of what you can learn and stuff. And especially now, you know, my role is often to be the cameraman and the field director, because there's no production, can't send anyone out from the UK. So then I have to learn not only, you know, the camera skill, but also a lot towards story building and also editorial skill, because you have to know how to edit to film. So well, I mean, there are many shoots that's gone wrong. I'm not gonna lie. You know, there are shoots that the animal didn't show up. I mean, Born in China is a very typical example of, I spent, you know, 28 days in a high try to film wild pandas, and you know, we have not filmed a single shot of pandas,
Yeah.
and have
Because the
an 11
pressure must be
second.
massive.
Oh my god, it's huge. You know, it
Yeah.
was a remote shoot, and having a remote shoot, the biggest problem is that director and producer are not in the field to see the reason of you failing, and all they see is the empty hard drives. You know, and that's a big hit on you. But I mean, empty hard drives sometimes is better than, you know, shitty shot hard drives.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. So, but you know, I mean, the thing is, we were so close. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was focused on filming pandas and what make a panda film back then. Is that we were as close as getting to spots where we see fresh droppings that are still smoky. You know, there's still steam coming out of those droppings. So that panda can't be far away, but we just can't see them. We can't film them, we can't see them. And that was a huge blow. You know, I mean, for me personally, after that, I was like, right, I have to make a film, or I have to do this again. I have to be successful at it. And that's what progressed to the panda thing. But then, you know, there are other shoots like, you know, we worked on Born in China on the snow leopard team as well, and that was difficult. You know, it was so remote that, and also altitude so high that, you know, you feel like shit every day, basically, not for like 2 weeks. And then after that, you're basically almost heading home.
Yeah.
So majority of the time you're there, you feel like shit, and then you can't find the animal because they're so elusive. You know, and for the rare time that you find animals, there's something must have gone wrong that you can't film them, or whatever reason it is. You know, so the snow leopard shoot was also a big struggle as well. And also the other cameraman I worked with, he got really sick and had to be evacuated. Yeah, and you can't, I mean, where we were is in the middle of nowhere. Like, you can't get to somewhere that have a telephone for the next 12 hours drive, you know, and it's all, you know, off-road terrain. You just basically drive in the mountains with a compass. So it's pretty insane. And that, you know, that was one of the shoot. I mean, yeah, I mean, I can go for days on the things that we haven't done right, but we have learned from it a lot, you know, both productions and producer, director we worked with, and, you know, and applying those skills to the new shoots. I mean, I think that's the most important thing.
I think that's right. Definitely, is that you make these mistakes, but you learn from them and you adapt from them, and hopefully you don't make them again. So your failures are almost as important as your successes, really, aren't they?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But I mean, I think I'm lucky to a point I'm like super technical. Like I just love tech and I love cinema, and a lot of times I'm trying to sort of, apply the cinema techniques and skills to wildlife filmmaking. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's all try and error. But to be able to do that, to have freedom of doing that, I have vintage lenses that I want to make certain shots and certain scenes to look certain ways. I have that opportunity to do that. But I'm confident in terms of my tech skills, that I'm able to sort of understand it and push it over the boundary and try to convince producer and director to use something like a set of cook primes. It's very difficult because it's very expensive for them to hire, but having that freedom of creative, because a lot of times we don't get to say how the edit would go. In the edit is all the director, producer, and the editor's job, where we just film the story that they want us to film. But to be able to control almost 100% of that, I feel that's what makes me feel amazing about, really.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of have you say on the whole process, isn't it? From shot to edit suite. Well, look, buddy, it's been a pleasure catching up with you, because it's been too long, and we'll have to catch up sooner than this next time. But take care, and hopefully we'll see each other. I was going to say soon, but it ain't going to be soon. But at some point we'll be able to hold in a lovely embrace and just put our heads next to each other.
Would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think last time when we see each other, we didn't even give each other a hug.
No, you
saw each other in the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, you have to sit on my driveway wall, and I had to stand in the door. And
shit, I remember that.
And yeah, I've got a 2 meter stick, and if you came any closer, I'd smack you in the face with it to keep you away.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right, Captain.
Yeah, that's it. Well, look, buddy, take care, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Cheers, Captain. Talk to you soon.